Hello and welcome to a new Redbex training video. In this video we're going to talk about charting in Redbex. You will see that Redbex offers a big variety of different types of charts and as this video should not take too long, we will limit ourselves for this video to time value charts. You will find out later on if you try it on yourself that the settings of the charts, of the different types of charts, all follow almost the same structure. So I'm quite sure if you watch this video you will be able also to set up different other types of charts, not only time value charts, which we'll handle right now. So let's just get hand-on and have a look to our Redbex client. As we need some features, of course, that holds observations that could be drawn in the chart, I prepared a feature set of different features we will use for this video. I prepared here 4 different measurement features and one event diary feature, which we will also use later on. So I will show you this feature here, for example, just has plenty of observations we can use. And you will see this type of feature, the measurement feature offers 3 different properties, 3 different number properties which can be used for the chart later on. So for defining a new chart, please open the presentation ribbon and you will find here on the second place there is the time chart button, and right now you can see that we get the definition window for our chart. The chart is this window is divided in different areas. On the left side you will find the so-called pins. Pins are the connections between the features and the chart itself. So the pin decides which type of feature should be used for the chart and actually also which property of the feature should be used to be drawn in the chart, and this is what we are going to do in the first place. So I highlighted this feature here, and then on the right side I get the section where I can define different settings for this pin here, and one of the settings here in the pin typing is the setting of the feature type. I will set this feature type to 3D movement, as this is the type of the feature I would like to draw here, and I also have to decide which value property should be used, and here I am offered the 3 numeric properties of this feature, and I decide that the elevation should be the property of choice which should be drawn in this chart afterwards. So right now we defined what we should draw, so we would like to draw some 3D movement observations and we would like to draw the property elevation, but we did not design which feature actually should be the source of the data, and this is done by a so-called binding. So we bind this pin to a feature. This is simply done by, again, highlighting the pin we would like to bind and then just simply drag and drop the feature of our choice to this area here, and then we created a so-called binding here. This entry here is the binding of the feature 3D004 to the pin which does not have a name yet. So let's change this one immediately and give it the name our first pin. And now we have done a minimal settings, the minimal settings already, and we should be able to execute the chart and see some fine results. Let us do this. And now here we have already a chart of the observations of this feature here. Of course, one pin can hold more than one features, so I can drag as many features as I would like to have in for one pin. And now if I execute it again, then I should see 2 different curves of these 2 different bindings here for my pin. On the other hand, I also could have different pins also already. I can have any number of pins. So for example, now I have a second pin, and I again have to type this pin first, so I have to tell this pin that it has to draw properties of the feature type 3D movement, and I have to also define that elevation set should be drawn here. And now I can drag and drop a feature to this binding area, and then we will see now we have 3 different curves already in our charting. Let's do it once more. I will create a third pin. And this pin also will get a binding. There is one feature left in our selection. That didn't work because I didn't type the pin first, so I have to first tell the pin what it actually should be bound to and also select the property. And now we are ready to make the binding for our third pin, and if I execute it, that it's very likely that we get 4 curves. Right now we see them here. So the setting area always displays the settings for the level I just was opening. If I'm working on pin, then I can see here the settings for the pins. This chart also has some general settings, and the general settings I am able to call up by pressing this button here in my toolbar on the top. If I just click it here, then I will see the settings here will change to my general settings possibilities I have for this type of chart. So the first level is the general settings, then the second level of settings is in connection with the pins, and then we have one more setting which is about the binding itself. So the binding also has a setting here, and if I just click at the binding, I get here also a set of options I can choose of. Most of them are settings which are in connection with the visibility, so I can change the color. For example, I can decide this binding should be drawn in red color, then you will see one of the line will change color to red. I can also change the line style, the thickness, etc. I could decide to show the points. I can change the point symbol, the point size, etc. I can also decide that this binding should not be listed in the legend. We will see afterward what this is. And then I have the possibility to change the values itself. Actually, I could decide that here the values should be multiplied by any number, and then the values would be displayed according to these factors given here. Also, I can have some additive constant if this would be necessary in some special cases. I will leave this blank as I don't need it. I don't want this special modifications. I will just draw the values as they are in the observations of my features. So let's go up one level. Let's go through the settings of the pin. Again, if I open up the pin, I have the possibility to set the color. The color will be set for all the bindings within this pin, but not if the binding itself already has set a color. So if, for example, I change this pin here to the color of green and redraw my chart, then we will see that only one line has become green, because in the other feature, this is this one, the other binding, we had set the color at the binding level. So the more detailed level, of course, is the stronger one, and the more general level will regard the detailed setting we have done. So I can set here some other colors. For example, the second pin should have the color orange, and the third pin I give a different color, for example blue. In the lower section of the pin settings, I have also some possibilities to show zero readings if there exists. I can again make some value transformation, but more interesting is here the delta to the first, and this is actually interesting in this kind of data which is playing here. The measurement data usually are interpreted in relation to the first measurement, so not the absolute values of the measurement are interesting, but the change from the first measurement to the actual measurement. So I will just set this delta to first for all my 3 pins. The second pin and the first pin is still left. And now let's see what changes here. If I execute this definition again, you will see then they start at 0, because 0 is at the first measurement, of course, has delta 0 to the first measurements, and then I will see just the relative changes relative to the first measurement here. This is more likely to be displayed in this way. Now let's go one level up and have a look to the general settings. We didn't do this so far. The general settings gives me, for example, the possibility to enter some title. And I misspelled this. Also have the possibility to give a subtitle, and here goes the header line, and also there is some footer line also. Let's execute it again, and then we will see the chart has got a title, subtitle, a header line, and here we have the footer line. I have the possibility to show erroneous flags also if I switch this on, and I also highlight the erroneous observations. Then if there are some, I will get some flag. Obviously in these observations there is no erroneous observation. I just zoom in a little, and then, for example, I decide that this observation here to me does not look very likely to be true, and I have the possibility to right click this observation here and mark actually this observation as erroneous. And then if I redraw my chart, and as I have set this option here, I will see the erroneous observation, and this erroneous observation will also get a mark also. And now if I open the observation itself, so the feature will be opened using a specific, very special filter, only showing this one observation here. I see actually really in the database, in the observation, the erroneous flag was set. So it's not only in the diagram, it really goes to the data and changes the data itself. Of course, I can do the other side also. I can unmark this observation as erroneous, and then the mark, of course, will disappear again. I can also highlight zero readings if there are some, and I can also decide that I would like to display the filters if they're used in my charts. Right now I didn't use any filter, so there should not be all data is shown, no filter has been used. So let's see where can I set the filter. Actually this is done in the second tab. The first tab is all about the charts and the setting of the chart. And the second tab now gives me the possibility to filter the observations that are used for this chart according to different categories. In the first category I have the possibility to filter the observations according to their approval status. So right now, as I don't use approval in this case, all the approval status are selected, so every observation will be drawn. The more interesting part here is the next part. I would like to use a time filter, for example, and I set two different points in time, and I provided here two dates. And now I don't use the full range of observations for my charts. I go back to my observation, to my chart area, and re-execute it, and then I will see the chart goes much simpler because now I have only data shown from the from 1 month actually in 2030. Now again I can show you to mark one erroneous. Then you will see here is the flag, and if I unselect this one, I don't want to highlight erroneous one, and also don't want them to be shown, and I execute it again, then you will see that actually this observation is not displayed anymore. It has been removed from the chart. So I select this one, then we have the possibility to see it again, and now you will see here my erroneous flagged observation is here, and also the flag has returned. I unmark again, this one is erroneous. So next chapter is the legend. I can decide if I would like to have a legend. I decide I will have one, and it should be displayed on the left side. then I could give the legend a header and a footer also. I will keep this blank for right now. And in the next chapter, Miscellaneous, the next chapter, I have the possibility to give a name for the series. Right now, the name for the series would be feature/property. As I'm drawing always the same property here in my chart, I don't need the property actually, so I decide that the feature name should be enough. So let's see what the result is of this setting right now. Okay, we have here our header, our legend, and the legend is followed by the name of the features where the observations originate. I can also enter some naming templates here if I'm not sophisticated with the possibilities this settings here gives me. I can tell the system, please use a text template, and then decide whatever I would like to have as a name for the series here in my legend. I go back here to features because I'm fine with this. I could also use a coloring scheme if I didn't set up the colors at the feature side and the pin side. I can tell the system, please use just a color palette, then I will get any colors from a color palette, and at least the different series get different colors and can be distinguished in the diagram. But as we did some nice color settings at pin and feature level, I will undo this setting and again use my colors from the pins and the feature settings of our chart. The next is about subgraphs, and for the subgraphs I will just return to the more detailed level, to the level of pins. At the pins, if I select one pin, I get here again the settings for the pin. I have the possibility to assign whatever is be drawn in this pin to a specific subgraph, and also if the axis on the left or on the right side should be used. So as I have here two pins, I state the first one should be used in the subgraph 1, and then the second one I decide the second pin should be displayed in the subgraph 2, but the left axis should be used, and the third pin I would like to use also the subgraph 2, but here I would like to use the right y-axis. And now if I re-execute this chart, you will see the effect. I have now two graphs in my chart. We call them subgraphs. The first graph has every binding of the first pin, which is two different features. So we have here two different graphs in this first subgraph, and then the second subgraph, number 2, actually has the data of two different pins, of the pin 2 and the pin 3, but I decided the third pin to use the right-handed axis, so we have here two different axes for the two different graphs here on our subgraph. Now let's return to the general settings. Now I see that in the general settings I have the possibility to make some settings for the subgraphs themselves. I, for example, can define that they should use alternating colors. This is quite handy if you use more than 2 or 3 subgraphs, then you will see that the background just flips from gray to white, and then the next would be gray again and white and so on. But I also have the possibility to name a subgraphs, so I call this one sub1. And I also have the possibility to name the axis. So in the subgraph 1, the axis I will give the name y1 just to have something which can be displayed, and in the subgraph 2 I give the axis name y left, and the right axis also should get a name which will be y right. So let's re-execute this definition, then you will see we have here also the naming of the axis according to what we just entered. More interesting than the naming, or also interesting, is the scaling method. Right now every scaling method is set to auto, which means that the chart tool itself distinguishes the minimal and the maximal value and just scales the area to which is displayed, that the chart will fill the whole area which is be used. So I will change this for one subgraph. Let's do it for the subgraph 1. I now tell the system, please use a predefined min and max value, and then we will set the min value, for example, should be sub-0 10, and the max value should be 10 also. Then you will see, if we re-execute this, that of course the scale is much too big and we will not see very much about this movement here. But this is useful if you make different charts of different features and you would like to compare them. Then of course it's very useful that you use the same scaling method for every chart, and then you just can compare them, because you always see the same area here and you can just easily see if this chart is going up, what the meaning is. This would not be that easy if you just use auto scale, because then of course this value here changes and that is not the same in every case. What is also possible, that only the minimum is fixed and the positive values is going to be automatically scaled. Then it looks like this. So we have the minimum value is set to 10 and the max goes automatically to the maximum value which should be displayed. The same goes for the auto max value. It's just the other way around. So minimum is now set to 0 because this is the first value, and the max will remain at 10 because 10 was defined in our settings. Then you also have the possibility to make a logarithmic scale. This will not be useful in this case. I just would like to show you what happens. You see here we have some logarithmic scaling here, and this of course is not the right setting for this measurement data. We should have logarithmic values also. Then this setting would be nice and handy. And yes, then we have the same settings again for all the other subgraphs we use or we don't use in our charting. Then we have the possibility to set up a grid. I can change whatever color I would like to use in the grid for having a good way to display it. I'll choose a blue grid and I'll choose it should be used for both axes, and you will see then here we have quite a nice grid. This is actually not very useful. I will change the color to some light gray. I think this is then quite better. And then I can also change the time axis. I have the possibility to label the time axis points in a different way, in some different settings. I have the simple one, which actually is displayed right now, but also we have the possibility to make a smart time axis labeling, and then you will see that here we have different lines, and according to the times when we are using these lines will show the different points in time, and this is quite some nice type of time axis labeling. Also the scaling here can be done in different ways. I can use an automatic scaling which just makes the scale according to the point of times which the observations origin in, or I can also use just the filter of the observations to make the time scaling. So the last thing, one of the last thing we have to talk about is the so-called events. I can use events, which is properties of any other feature, to be displayed within my charts. And of course the best feature to do is the event diary feature, and I will just show it to you using this feature. I just drag and drop this feature to my first event feature here in the settings, and then I have to decide what property should be displayed and what property should be used as a classification of this entries. And here I use the name, for example, as the name property, and there we have some event type which should be the class property. So what is done, you will see if I re-execute my chart, you will see here there is one event actually stored to my measurement event feature, and the event name is being displayed within my chart, and the time span which this event lasted is displayed as an area which is colored according to the event type here. So let's quickly switch off my time filter so we'll see the whole time span we have. Then we'll see there are also two different events here. If I zoom in, then you will see here we have one event which is characteristic, which has a different color because the color comes from the event type. So let's just open this event feature to see what observations it holds. And here we see now we have 3 observations, and we can see that the event type here, we have 2 events that have event type astronomical and 1 event type which is informal, and the informal event type has 1 color, and also the astronomical event type was assigned to a color. And so we can see here that we have 3 events in our time chart diagram, and the name and the event duration is displayed within the time value diagram here. I could choose 2 different other event features, and interesting is that not only the features of type event diary can be used, but any any feature can be used here. The feature only has to have 1 text property on the first level, so this can be displayed in the chart, and has to have a classification property, so also the coloring of this duration here can be done according to the property or according to the classification property of the feature type which is being used here. And then as the last position we have the trend lines, so I can display also trend lines in my charting. For this I will switch back to my reduced time span here. So here we have our different chartings. I will also switch off my events here, delete this again, and now I would like to show a trend line, not only the trend line but the trend line and their original values. And let's go for the first degree for the first try, and then we will see that we will have here a line which is in the first degree. And to distinguish better which line actually comes from the values and which one is the trend line, I have the possibility to change the line style. So I make this one dotted here, execute it once again. So now we should see quite better that we have here the dotted one is the trend line, and here the blue one is the original line. Now let's have a look how the second degree would look like. Well, again, let's have a look at the third degree. And now we see here we quite have some curves. See, the red one shows a pretty trend line for our values. And then of course I can decide I would like only the trend line to be displayed, and then I get some quite nice curves here as the trend lines for the values of these observations. Of course I can save these charts after I created it. I can print it just using the common print dialog. I can have a print preview also of my chart, so I see how it would look like on the page, and I can also export it to a clipboard or and change the resolution of the picture which I would like to create it here. I can change different types of images I would like to create, so I can have a raster image, I can have a PDF as a result, and whatever you see here of the options. And then you have the possibility to clip the result to the clipboard or save it to the file to your disk for later usage in whatever application you would like to use it. If you would like to see the chart in a bigger area, then you have the possibility to fade out the settings area here. Just press this button here on the top, then the settings will be removed, and also the same goes for the pin section on the left side. And now you have here quite a big area to see the charting and see the lines. So for the last, I would like to tell you also that of course it is possible to save the settings we did right now. So you have the possibility to save these settings as a template, and you also always have to save templates to data domains. And if I have, as I have here a focused data domain to my project B data domain, this will be also, this is already set here, and I can save this template right now to my data domain. And I also can save the bindings I did. So on the left side, whatever I did here, I can do this also and save also the bindings, so I can recall exactly this chart I was configuring right now at a later time, and I will see the results again. If you would like to recall this, just open the Presentation Template Explorer on the left side. And here, if you select your data domain, you will see we have here some charts templates here, and there should be also my charts, which I was just saving during this video right now. I would introduce you to just play around with these possibilities Redbex offers you. You will see that whatever chart you are going to draw here, all the charts have pretty the same structure. You have to have some pins on the left side. You have to configure the pins first, tell the pin which feature type it has to be prepared for, and tell the pin which property should be used to be displayed within the chart. And then the settings, you just have to walk through and do all the settings, and you will quickly find out how to use this mighty tool of Redbex to display data from your observations of the features.